All right. I think it worked tonight. Thank goodness. So, well, we got somebody in here. Who is online with us? So we'll give it a few more minutes. I know I told 7 o'clock, and I just wanted to come on just a little bit earlier and make sure. Mr. Scott, how you doing, brother? Thanks for tuning in, especially after the fiasco of last night. I don't know what happened. I just was trying to connect on here. Jimmy, how you doing, bud? I was trying to connect, and it kept saying your encoder is not sending, info. I don't know. I don't know. Michael, were you the one that I just responded to the comment over on Facebook? So, Scott, thank you. So, Jimmy, I like it. You're Colorado bound and listening. So, good luck. Jimmy, may your arrow find its mark. Be safe, but most of all, have fun. Mountain Tough, how you doing, bud? So, love it. Yes, thank you for your response. Okay, yeah, Michael, I saw you, jump on and say found you, and I was going to pull up my phone and go, okay, was that who I responded to? So, Utah CCW, Scott, how you doing, bud? So, the season is upon us. We are getting ready for second weekend. In fact, hopefully some of you guys got out. I know some of you are traveling, to your hunt. It's here. The time of year that we absolutely love is here. So we'll just give it a couple more minutes. So as you guys come in, go ahead and type in the chat. Let me know, who's here, who's watching. Just like always on these, as I'm rolling along, if you guys have questions, I mean, that's what makes this a lot of fun. I'm here for you guys. So be sure you put your questions in the chat. As long as I can, answer them and it doesn't kind of step on the toes of the students, I'll be more than happy to. Bugle me this, leave Monday. Best of luck to you. Bugle me this, safe travels, and hope your hunt is a successful one. How was your hunt? Let's just get going. So, okay, opening weekend. Todd, hey, from Alberta, welcome. So, opening weekend, we had probably one of the best opening weekends that we've had in recent years. I mean, it was just incredible. Weather-wise, it was perfect. Daytime highs were in the mid 60s. Lows were in the mid 30s to low 30s. So absolutely perfect for nice cool nights, warm days. That's really what you want during archery. We did have half a moon. It was fairly bright, but really the way the weather was. But all in all, we encountered 19 different bulls. And of those 19 different bulls, I called 15 of them into 40 yards or less. And of those 15 bulls that we had called in, 9 of those guys were bugling. So, a few of the things that we noticed, some of the bulls were still in bachelor groups. We actually found a little 4-point, a 4x4 that had about 9 or 10 cows. And what's crazy about that is just right over the soft ridge from him was Trident. I don't know if you guys have seen pictures of Trident on my Facebook page or not. I know some of you have, but for those of you that haven't, Trident is a 7x7 that has showed up on my trail camera several times this summer. He is a funky horn bull that just has tons of unique characteristics. So it's kind of interesting that he's on one side of the ridge hanging out with 2 other bulls, and then on the other side of the ridge, here's a 4-point with 9 or 10 cows. But sometimes you'll see that in the early season. Those older, bigger, more mature bulls will just kind of hang back and let those younger bulls run around, gather up all the cows, and then all they have to do is come in and kick that dude's butt, and then bang, he's got 9, 10 or more cows, instead of, spending all that energy, to go around. But We got up there Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening. Immediately had a cow calf and a spike at about 40 yards. I was calling for Lonnie, one of my partners. Um, he just didn't want to quite take the shot on that one. Never got presented with a real good shot. Saturday morning, I had Trident, Funky Horn. Trident was 15 yards from him. Funky Horn was 18 yards from him. Now, those guys never responded to a location bugle. Saturday morning didn't get any location bugles, but we got set up in an area that I knew was a travel corridor, had a lot of fresh sign in it, so I knew elk were definitely moving through the area. They were around there, and so we set up, and I just kind of started doing this blind calling routine, this breeding sequence that we teach in the elk calling academy, and was about 10 minutes into the you know sequence or doing that, and all of a sudden, got a bull to bugle down off the face, and he's coming up, and then we got a second bull to bugle, and that was Trident and the Funky Horn that came up. So um he had just Lonnie had moved a little bit because the angle they were coming up, he thought he needed to swoop down, but had he stayed right where he was, Trident would have ended up stepping out at 10 yards from him. So I can never seem to get a bull in when I'm on them. Usually they are on cows, so that's a no-brainer. Can't find my GoPro. I need to find it. So Mountain Tough, I'll kind of talk about that a little bit. Um, so yeah, and then we kind of worked those guys until they kind of lost interest. I really couldn't move anymore to really kind of swing them around. And so they had gotten to that point where they thought they should be able to see that elk. And yeah, they were 15 yards and 18 yards from Lonnie, but they were behind a down log. So he just couldn't get a shot. And so we let them just kind of wander off and go and bed down. And we climbed higher up on the ridge, and, we stay all day out there. So, like I said before, I carry a lightweight parachute hammock in my pack, and I spread that between, a couple of trees and eat my lunch. But the thing that I do when I'm up there, here's a tip for you guys: stay on the mountainside. When the elk go to bed, travel up the mountain a little bit higher than what you think they are, since the thermals are blowing up. Your thermals are going up. You don't have to worry about boogering them. But one thing I'll do is, while I'm sitting there, I'll just a couple of soft cow calls. And I'll do that every 30 minutes. Mr. John Oliver, thanks for chiming in tonight. So, but those couple of soft cow calls every 30 minutes, because here's the deal. Okay. A bull's going to go and he's going to bed down and he's going to sleep for a little bit, but then he's also going to work on the contents that are in his stomach, because they're grazers. They're a lot like cattle. They'll graze, then they'll lay down and they'll chew their cud. It takes an elk about 3 to 4 hours to empty the contents of their stomach. Well, as soon as that stomach is empty, guess what? They're hungry. They're going to get up and they're going to feed. They're going to mill around. They're going to feed a little bit. They're going to go get water. And if you're within a couple hundred yards of where they're bedding, okay, say they're bedded here, you're up on the hill here, you're doing those couple of cow calls. He knows you're there. When he gets up to start moving around, one of two things is going to happen. One, he's either going to come in and check you out. So you really have to be aware of noises that you're hearing. Listen for, something coming in. A lot of times I'll go ahead and knock an arrow and have my bow, with the arrow nock just sitting right there just in case. But the other thing that they'll do is, when they get up and move, they'll bugle. And what they're doing is they're bugling at you, saying, hey, I acknowledge you. I'm heading down here to this wallow, or I'm heading down here to this creek. Come join me. So they're giving you an open invitation. They're acknowledging, that you're there. Well, if you just go back to camp and you're sitting in camp — in fact, I had a conversation with a guy. He thought it was ridiculous that I carried a parachute hammock. And I asked him, what do you do during the middle part of the day? He says, well, I go back to camp so that I can eat a good meal and take a good nap. Well, guess what? That's the same thing that I do on the mountainside in my hammock. I eat a good meal, take a good nap, wait for a bull to pipe off or wait for a bull to, start coming in. Just with those couple of cow calls. But you're right there. That way, if he gets up, then it's pretty quick to get on him. So that was Saturday. We didn't get much action Saturday evening. Sunday morning, we went back in there and um, took a little bit different route and set up calling in a different place. And we got surrounded on Sunday morning. We had 7 different bulls. I had a bull about 55 yards out in front of me raking. Brandon, one of my partners, was about 10, 15 yards to my right. He had a spike, a fork and horn, and a 3x4 about 35 yards in front of him. Bryce was back behind that was acting as the second bull. We'll call back and forth in these scenarios. He had a bull about 40 yards from him, and then we had another bull to the left. And that big bull, he didn't sound off a bunch. He just let off a couple of grunts and chuckles, that 3, 4 times. But he did actually rake a tree for about 15 minutes. He absolutely destroyed that tree. So, and here's the thing that you guys need to remember. So, when we talk about you're doing these blind calling scenarios, you're doing this breeding sequence, and you're doing this to elicit a response from the bull. A response is not necessarily a bugle. A response could be a bugle, it could be a grunt, it could be chuckles, it could be raking, it could be them just coming in to check you out of curiosity. Those are all responses. So don't get so focused that, oh, the only response is a bugle and those elk aren't responding, because you'll hear that all the time. Oh, we went out and the elk weren't responding. Well, I'll bet you if you really were patient, and that's another key, guys, patience, especially early in the year right here. Patience is key. I will set up and do that breeding sequence in the same area for 45 minutes before I'll get up and move on. So, no shots were fired. It was one of those things that surrounded by bulls and no shots, but that's hunting. That's how it goes. So, and then Sunday morning, headed into a different spot. Bryce and I got about 3 miles back in. I threw a location bugle and we got 3 responses. And we just started working up the hill and getting on that same level. And once we got on the same level with that bull, he just came barreling in. He was running through that brush, and it sounded like somebody driving a truck through that brush. He was that loud running in, and he stopped 16 yards for me, and arrow found its mark. And after about a 40-yard track job, that one of the most insane blood trails that I've had in a while, there he was. So, we broke him down and started packing him off the mountain at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we finished at 9:30 the next morning. So, but it was all that sequence. And I mean, these 3 guys were vocal, where none of the other bulls were really responding to location bugles. So, we really had the opportunity to set up and really run our play. And like I said, I've talked about it before, offensive versus defensive. So we really had that opportunity to be offensive and run our play. So okay, Mountain Tough. I can never seem to get a bull in when I'm on them. Usually they are on cows, so that's a no-brainer. Okay. It depends what's going on in that situation. If he just has cows and no cows are in estrus, you can pull him away from those cows. But what you need to do is, you're not calling to the bull anymore at that point. You need to get close to them, and you need to start calling to the cows. So it's almost like you are insulting his cows or trying to pull his cows away from him, and he's not going to take very kindly, like, about that, especially since he's worked so hard to gather those. Now, if he does have a cow that's in estrus, and you'll be able to tell the difference. If a cow is in estrus, he is going to be extremely vocal. He is going to be bugling a bunch. He's going to be glunking. He's going to be, huffs, grunts, and whines. He's going to be raking. He's going to be constantly moving around, protecting her. If you hear that going on, it's extremely tough to pull that bull away from the cows. But he probably won't be alone. There will probably be other bulls around there, because when a cow comes into estrus, that does attract other bulls. And so you get into a situation where you have multiple bulls, and it's pretty easy to pull one of those satellites over to you. So John Oliver, this is my first year bow hunting. Been watching your vid and learned how to call from you. Keep up the good work. I appreciate that, and best of luck to you, John. I would love to hear some stories. See pictures of your success. So, Scott, do you think it's easier later in rut to call elk versus pre-rut? Actually, Scott, right now during the pre-rut is a pretty dang good time to call in bigger bulls, because they aren't herded up. They don't have all those cows. They're still in bachelor groups. And especially that's why the breeding sequence is so effective on those guys when they are in those bachelor groups, because they almost feel like they're missing out. We haven't gathered any cows yet, but dang it, here's a bull with a hot cow. I need to go up and check that out and see if maybe I can take that cow. So, later in the rut, if you can, just like the situation we were just talking about with Mountain Tough, if you find a herd bull with cows and none of the cows are in estrus, your chances of calling him in are better than if he has a cow that's already in estrus. So later in the rut, you start getting more cows that are in estrus, and it gets tougher and tougher to pull those big bulls, those herd bulls away. So Jason O'Hare, Colorado is here. Welcome, welcome. John, do you like north-facing slopes more at night versus any other faces? Actually, John, north-facing slopes, that's typically their bedding area. So that's your midday time. That's where they go to bed down. That's where the thicker timber is. That's where, your temps are usually 10, 15 degrees cooler than anywhere else on the mountain. So that's kind of where I spend my mid part of the day, is in those north-facing slopes for bedding. Yes, north-facing for bedding. You got it. Larry Davis, hello. I'll be listening and watching while I'm packing, leaving Saturday for 2 weeks. Larry, good luck to you. Safe travels. Hope you have a successful hunt. Mountain Tough, did I hear last stream that you were going to hunt Oregon, or am I off? Yes, I did talk about that on the last stream, but the Oregon hunt is not going to be this year. It's going to be next year in 2019. So, in fact, right now on the schedule for next year, it's Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. I know one of my hunting partners has really been after me to go back to Colorado, so I don't think I'll throw 4 states. That's a lot of travel and not much time in each area. But we'll see. I've still got 3 more tags in my camp that I got to fill for my hunting partners before I really start focusing on next year. So, Tyler, let's hear that breeding sequence again. Tyler, I'm gonna pull back on that one. So if you guys do want to really learn the breeding sequence and learn more about that stuff, just get a hold of me and we can talk about setting up one-on-ones, and I'll dump information on you. So I'll share it. Like I said, I've got to be faithful to the students and clients that we have that are paying money for these. So Utah, you need to hunt in Utah. I think I told you one good spot. Yeah, I used to put in for the draws when I was over at the Western Hunting Conservation Expo. I used to do that annually every year. Never drawn a tag. I'm not saying that I'm not giving up on Utah. I'm just saying there's some other spots over the counter that provide some really good opportunities. So, Nick, love these videos. Keep them coming. Question: do you think elk up in southern Canada will have the same rut dates or similar dates as down south in the USA? Yes, I do. Because Nick, really, it's a biological. It's not so much a geographical thing. I mean, you can get a little differences in habit, with how they behave. But as far as the biological side, it's that autumn equinox and how the equal amount of daylight and nighttime and how that light hits the cow's eyes, that's what really triggers the rut. Southern Canada, I know you guys need to add that A at the end of your calling. So Nick, I'm just kidding. Sorry, I had to go there. I have a lot of friends that are Canadian, and I give them a bad time of how they incorporate that A into their calling, and a couple of them have demonstrated it pretty good for me. So good thing I've got some friends up there with good sense of humor. So, but no, you know, just like down here, you can have different things that can adjust the rut, a little bit. Pressure, what the upcoming winter is going to be like, that kind of stuff. And that's one thing I really noticed about my bull. He had a good solid 2.5 inches of fat on him. He was a fat sucker. So usually when I see that much fat on an animal, that tells me we're in for a pretty good winter. I mean, they know, they can feel it coming up, and so they build those fat reserves. So we were on a big bull for 3 hours last Monday. We're in aggressive with him, worked well. Didn't get a shot, but had a blast. Todd, that's awesome. That's part of it there. I've talked about this in the past. So many people focus about the success. They focus about putting that animal on the ground so they can have that social status on social media and showing it off, that they forget to enjoy the whole process. They cease to, pay attention to the daylight cracking in the east, and hearing the forest come alive, and the sights and the smells and the sounds, and it's sad. I don't know. Again, Fred Bear's quote, "A hunt based solely on trophies falls far short of what the ultimate goal should be." That just rings, so true. And yeah, I was successful last weekend, but the memories, the laughter that was shared with my hunting partners, and the experiences, um, I mean, so Bryce and I have hunted together for several years, and it was just the two of us up there, and we were shuttling my bull down to the trail. We figured if we could get him off that mountainside down to the trail down by the creek, um, you know, it'd make it a lot easier for the whole group to come in and take the quarters out. And we would take a load down 50, 7,500 yards, then come back up and grab another load. Then I would have to take a third trip up to grab the head. But we were in the middle, and I mean, we were just exhausted. We hadn't eaten much, still had a little ways to go. And we both had our packs loaded, pretty heavy. And we were walking down to the next spot, and just out of the blue, he's like, "I hope you got a big trunk, because I'm going to park my bike in it." And I just busted up laughing. I was like, "Did you really just quote 40-year-old virgin on the mountainside while we're packing an elk off the mountain?" And it just turned into, we just started going back and forth and quoting one-liners from movies and laughing. And that's all part of it there. Those are the memories that, when I look at that rack, when I get it back from the taxidermist, those are the things that I'm going to remember. I'm going to remember those laughs. I'm not going to remember the pain or the hardship of packing that bull out. I'll remember how the hunt unfolded, but mostly I'm just going to remember that laughter. So some great units here in Oregon. Mountain Tough, actually, I grew up in Oregon. I grew up in Hermiston, Oregon. I went to college in LeGrand. I started my elk hunting career in the Blue Mountains. There between Pendleton and LeGrand is actually where I started my elk hunting career, actually up by Spout Springs Ski Resort. So yeah, there are some great units in Oregon. I'm very familiar with, Wallowa, Imnaha, Ukiah, Mount Emily. So, and I know there's some good units in other parts of the state too. So the journey, not the destination. Absolutely, John, peaceful. Anthony, heard you were successful. Great job, Mike. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, Anthony, looking forward to, hearing stories, from you guys, And actually, Anthony, you contributed to the celebration on the mountainside. So we saluted the mountain and gave thanks, and had a little sip of the gift that you brought over. So appreciate that. All right. Another thing I wanted to talk on is ethics and respect. So we had, so like I said, the area that we were going in the first couple of days, there was two or three other trucks that, we made it to the trailhead before them, and they would go to pull in and then they would turn around and go up the road. And there's another access point up higher, but it brings you high on the ridge. And for morning thermals, it's not that great. But Sunday morning, we went in and we had two groups come in right behind us. So we were already across the first draw up on the middle ridge, and we heard them come in and start calling. We got up, worked all those 7 bulls, and then, we worked higher up on the mountain to take a break as they were in bed, and we heard one group come up underneath us calling. And so, I cow called to them to get their attention, hoping they would come up so we could kind of talk. And they undercut us and went right over to where the elk were bedding. And I shook my head. They knew we were there, and it's not that big of an area. So, and in fact, when we got out and got back to the truck, there was 3 other trucks that were parked there within 75 yards. So it seems the more this sport grows, the less people have ethics and respect for others. I'm the type of person that if I get to a trailhead and somebody is there before me, good for them. I'm going to go someplace else, let them have that area for that day. And then the next morning, I'm going to get up 15 minutes earlier to see if I can get to that trailhead first. It doesn't do any good to have people, crawling all over one another. It ruins hunts. It's completely disrespectful in my book. So I just implore all of you, if you get to a trailhead or a place you wanted to hunt and somebody's already there, just do the respectful thing and just go hunt another place. If you don't have another place, go explore. You might find a little honey hole that was even better than that place that you always go into and hunt. So, Michael, the camaraderie, the memories, I've yet to harvest an elk, but spending that time with my adult son, even missing a huge bull in front of him by using the wrong pin. That's what it's all about. It is. It's the time that you spend with family and friends. It truly is a special bond out there, especially when you guys share blood, sweat, and tears together. So, tears of joy, tears of heartache from using the wrong pin. You work so hard, but that's all part of it. So, and that's what builds those lasting memories. So, did you get any video of your hunt to share with us, John? Not of the bull that I killed, because actually I was calling for Bryce. I just had every intent to fill his tag, and I told him to go over to a certain pine tree. And when we got set up and called, the lower bull cracked off again, and he Bryce rerouted because he thought the bull was swinging down. And then this other bull, had he stayed there, this other bull would have come out at 8 yards. So, but we did get video of the 7 bulls we called in. We got a little bit of video of Trident. And now that I'm tagged out for the rest of the season calling for those guys, I'm just going to be, running camera and calling. So you guys will be able to see some of these videos of me kind of, how I operate out there in the field and how I respond and that kind of stuff. So that's the intent for the rest of the month, is just to get a ton of footage racked up. So, all right, Richard, just started bow hunting this year in northern Alberta. I have been out every morning, not many calling, but have had a couple come in very quiet to my calls. How fast can it turn into the rut? Well, Richard, the fact that you're getting them to come into your calls, even if they're quiet, they're still responding to your calls. And that's pretty normal for this time of year, is to get those silent response bulls coming in. And that's why I get into those areas and stay there for 45 minutes, give those bulls a chance to, come in. But, usually I've got an arrow knocked. I'm really listening. I'm paying attention because I know they're going to come in silent. But as you're doing that breeding sequence routine, you can actually build up the excitement where those bulls do start bugling. To answer your question, how fast can it turn into the rut? Man, as soon as cows start coming into estrus, it's going to get very, very vocal. And in fact, I bet this weekend, probably going to hear a lot more bugles. So, reason I say that is, we had cooler weather, had a few days where it warmed up, and now starting tomorrow, it drops almost 20 degrees. So you get that change in the weather. Also, I've noticed trees around town are really changing colors fast. So a lot of these things, they kind of recognize, they smell the change, they see the change in light. So yeah, definitely, I expect a lot more, vocal elk this weekend. So. All right, Mountain Tough. I've never harvested an elk with a bow, but 6 with a rifle. Hunting is basically my livelihood. It's what we're the same way. It's what we do in this house. And in fact, as soon as September's done, then my wife has a rifle cow tag. I have a antelope tag, and then her and I both have deer tags. So plenty of hunt to do with the family. So Larry, not too much in all the sense in the area, not too much. Oh, yes. And that's another thing with all the people, Larry. You're exactly right. A lot of bodies going in there. That's a lot of scent that's getting dropped in that area. So, and that's why we went over to this other area, because this other area that we went and hunted is a natural point for all those bulls to get pushed to. And so I wanted to kind of go take an inventory and see, what was there. And yeah, we heard the 3 bulls bugle, but when we were packing my bull off the mountain, we found a place that we called elk heaven. It's 6 to 8 inches of just churned up powder, beds all over the place, reek like elk, probably 50, 60 rubs in that area. There's way more rubs than what just 3 bulls are doing. I can tell you that. So I know there's more in there. Some of those bulls from the normal area may have already got pushed into there. So we'll find out this weekend. So bugle me this. First year I hunted, picked several spots, got the first spot after driving 15 hours, horse trailer and trucks. Nice. Spoke to a family that was hiking, asked if they saw any elk. They said no, but we saw a bunch of hunters. I ended up leaving, driving to my second spot, shot my first bull the next morning. That's awesome. Congrats. So that's good to hear about the pickup on the rut this weekend. I'm off hunting tomorrow for 2 weeks. So, John, if you're hunting for the next 2 weeks, you're going to hit a really, really good period, because the moon is basically starting to disappear, which means for the next few days, there's going to be absolutely no moon, which means really dark night, get cooler temps, which means more daytime activity in the mornings, means they're coming out of bed earlier in the evenings. Because of those dark nights. And so definitely going to see over your next 2 weeks a definite increase in activity. So absolutely. So, okay. What else did we see this weekend? So okay, we talked about the bachelor group of bulls. We talked about the younger ones with cows. Oh, I got asked this one because I went ahead and did the live broadcast on Facebook last night just because just wanted to get one of them out of the way. But somebody asked me about elk and cattle cohabitating in the same area. Absolutely, they will. And in fact, both those areas we hunted, there was cattle in there. The cattle and the elk will actually target different feed. So they're not really competing against each other for food sources. But the one thing I noticed from one of the trail cameras that I had out this summer, I had it on a bench that was about a halfway up the mountain. And when I first set the camera, every night there was a group of elk that were coming down and bed in there. And then after about the 6th or 7th night, I saw a group of cows move in. And then the next night, the cattle were in there again. And then the third night, the cattle were in there again. And I was thinking, great, the elk had been pushed out. But on the fourth night, the cattle were gone and the elk were back in there. And then the next night, cattle were in there. And then the night after that, the elk were in there. So it was like in every other night. And I think what was happening is the elk were starting to come down to that when the thermals were blowing up. And if they could smell the cattle down in that area, they just rerouted and went someplace else. But if they didn't smell the cattle, they went ahead and came down in there. So they were definitely, sharing that area back and forth. So, John, would morning and night location call be beneficial more than day calling? Okay, so John, what you want to do is, yes, you want to move and locate in the morning at first light until you get to, if it's an area that you've hunted before and it's a travel corridor or a bedding area, and you start getting close to that, that's when if you haven't gotten any responses to your location, then you set up and you do, this blind calling routine. If you do get a response, then you go ahead and you go work that bull. Also, if you're moving and locating and you get into fresh sign, fresh tracks, fresh pee, you can smell the elk, there's fresh green poop. That's another good place to set up and do, this breeding sequence blind calling routine. So, and that's basically how I treat each day. I have a place I want to get to. I know where they're bedding. I know which route I'm going to take to get in there. And I'll do location bugles at certain points as I'm moving into that. And if I haven't received any responses back, then once I get to that spot, then I set up and I do that breeding sequence. So, and then evening time's usually fast and furious. And what I mean by that is you have a shorter window to work. So that's why it's imperative that you stay up on the mountain relatively, within a couple 100 yards, 200-300 yards of that bedding area, so that when they do get up and start moving, you're close enough that you can get on them in a hurry, because usually that's about the last hour of daylight. So you want to give yourself plenty of time to really be able to work that bull and get him in for a shot. So Stephen, wallows barely kicking here, but small bull tracks at most. Any ideas where big bulls hang near food, near cows? Got games out to verify. Stephen, so early in the year like this, some of those big bulls will actually still stay up high. Just kind of like earlier where I talked about, they'll let those younger bulls come down, gather up the cows, and then they come down a little bit later, because then all they have to do is win one fight and then bang, they have multiple cows instead of spending all that energy, running around trying to, locate cows. So if you have cows on the camera and there's cows in your area, stay in that area because the bigger bulls will show up. So, okay, what else, guys? Throw some more questions in. Tomorrow night's video is already uploaded, scheduled. I'm leaving tomorrow midday to head back up to camp and hunt for the weekend. The pack I'm running is the Statement from Blacks Creek Guide Gear this year. And I had it all tore apart because I was kind of spraying it off a little bit. And so I figured I'd do a quick video of talk about all the components with the accessory option that's on that I have. And so I kind of put it all back together and kind of talk about it. So tomorrow night's video is going to be kind of a breakdown of that Blacks Creek Guide Gear Statement. I know I got asked last night about the hot on the trail scents. I have started gathering a little bit of video footage to show you guys how I use these scents out in the field. And I also shared, I know last week and week before, I think we talked about the liquid cow urine and how a lot of states are starting to make it illegal. Boarmasters website is just boarmaster.com. They have just come out with a synthetic liquid super hot cow urine. So it's a synthetic. It is legal because it is synthetic. It's not natural. So for those of you that really like using that liquid cow scent, go over to boarmasters.com and definitely check them out. So Will elk group up one big herd in lower pressure areas, or will they break up in smaller herds still? It all depends how many dominant bulls you have in that area. So if you have dominant bulls, yeah, because those bulls will generally grab their cows and they each have their own little breeding area. They have their own little bedroom that they like to take the cows to. And, bulls will gather cows and head back to that same breeding area year after year after year because it's a place they know, it's a place they feel comfortable with. So, but then other areas too, you might have large herds. So it just varies from area to area. So you may have a herd of 100 strong, or could just be a small herd of 15. So it's just going to kind of vary. Do you think that the Kuiu Venture 2300 is good? I have not even tried that pack on, so I really don't have any firsthand experience. I know, in February, in Salt Lake, there's the Western Hunting Conservation Expo. I usually attend that every year, and there's quite a few of the different companies there. My intent is to meet with a lot of these companies, do a lot more videos, try their packs on, talk about their gear. I've been trying to meet up with Initial Ascent, which is a new pack company. Hearing some great things about their stuff. They are right here in the Boise area. We just haven't had a chance to connect yet, but definitely I'm trying to meet up with those guys so that we can, give them an opportunity to tell their story and introduce their pack and gear to you guys. So, can you go over the Roundup Bugle? I've been reading Elknut's playbook and going over his app. So, yes, the Roundup Bugle is basically what a bull will do when he's wanting to round up his cows. And it's kind of important that you guys know this sound, because if you're working a bull and you hear him do this sound, he's getting ready to leave. He's lost interest in what you're doing, and he's going to gather up all of his cows and leave. And basically, this is what it sounds like. It's just that soft bark, a short mid-tone bugle, and 2 or 3 chuckles. So like I said, if you hear that while you're working that bull, he's getting ready to boogie. So you better figure out kind of, change a few things and step up some of the excitement, maybe raking, maybe do a lip ball to kind of challenge him a little bit. So he really likes it, and it appears to have been success for him. Can't wait to try calling out this year after so many years of spot and stock. Oh, calling is a blast. It is, Scott, we've talked about it. When you're interacting with a bull and you're hearing him or seeing him respond to what you're doing, I just grin ear to ear. I sit back there and laugh sometimes. Even after 30 years, it's still, it's so much fun. It's almost like you're playing a game of chess with this guy, but you're kind of leading the game the direction that you want. Granted, they're still wild animals. They're still going to do what they want, but being able to kind of control the situation a little bit with sounds and what you're saying and the picture that you're painting in the head, and that's all part of it, guys. It's not just calling. It's not just yeah, yeah. There's emotion, there's conviction in there, and so have fun with it. Know ahead of time the game plan that you want, the picture that you're going to try to convey, the type of emotion that is in that, and if you really capture that yourself, it's going to come out in your calling. You're going to have a lot more fun. So, Mountain Tough, I love my unrivaled tube so far. I haven't even used it yet out in the field. First morning or first day, I used the Golden Tone Grunt tube from Barry Game Calls with the 1.5 from Native by Carlton. Second day, I used the original Bully Bull from Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls with the gray amp. And then Sunday, I use the Unleashed tube from Phelps with, I think I used the Black Magic or the Reaper from Rocky Mountain Hunting Call. So I was switching up the combinations each day. Um, so yeah, my intent is this weekend I'm going to use the Unrivaled. So Utah, the biggest highlight for me this year will be to call in the Hulk. Well, that and my son's first hunt. I think you're going to have more fun, with you and your son hunting together. Um, but I don't know. I don't know the story with the Hulk, or maybe you did tell me. I don't know, but focus on that. Focus on that time with him. So watch his face light up when a bull really starts bugling and interacting and doing anything, and that's the memory that you're going to stick in your mental database for years to come. That's special right there, sharing that. So let's see, what other questions did we come up with last night? So there was the cattle. I definitely like the format when I get both. So have you ever used Wapiti River outdoor reeds? Richard, yes, I have. And in fact, Travis and I conjoined and we teamed up and we developed the Marco. The Marco is actually a reed that is built based on my specs on Travis's platform. But yes, I have used, several of his other reeds. He's supposed to be sending me down a couple of his new kryptonite, and really I'm anxious to get that reed and try it a little bit. But yeah, Travis does make good reeds. I do have his tube also that's in the mix. I've used his big tube for a couple of years out there. So yeah, Travis makes some good stuff. I was using the Wapiti River calls and bugle last weekend. They work well. Yeah, Todd, Travis's reeds do have good tone. They have good fit. They're comfortable. Good control. The Marco, I know we've been having a heck of a time trying to get them from his place in Canada down here into the U.S. For some reason, they keep getting stopped at customs and sent back to them. But the Marco, it is a double reed. It's designed kind of. We kind of designed it to, really have the good tonal qualities to it, the good rich tones, but yet, real easy to control. So I live just north of Grand Prairie, and Travis is a great guy. Yes, he is. And in fact, Todd, if you're interested in trying that Marco, I know Todd's kind of handling the Marco for anybody that's up there in Canada. So if you want to try one of those, just go ahead and get a hold of him. And if you do try one, let me know what you think of it. I'd love to hear some feedback from you. So, all right, guys, last chance, last call. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead and plug them in before we close out. I will be back Sunday. So tomorrow, Wednesday, we will do Wapiti Wednesday live Q&A again. The week after that, I'm not sure if I'm going to be gone yet or not. I am scheduled to go. It all depends on how the hunts unfold. But Scott, loved the Marco. Just had to trim it a little. Everybody's mouth is a little bit different on how they fit. That's what's great about reeds, is pulling out the scissors and tuning that reed to how it fits. So you're going to talk about peak rut, post rut during them times. Yeah, Stephen, next week, we'll be kind of hitting the top of that peak rut. So we'll kind of get into that a little bit more, and then kind of talk about what to expect down towards the tail end of the season. So that gets me pumped. I'm from Grand Prairie as well. Thanks. Yeah, Richard. Any of you guys that are north of the border in Canada, if you want to try that Marco, just get a hold of Travis. So Scott, thanks for helping us out with the tips. You are very welcome. All of you guys, love to hear stories. So, if you guys go out there and you take any piece that that you've gathered from any of this, and you get out there, I mean, just let me know about it. Let me know about your hunts. So, love seeing pictures, love hearing stories. I could sit around and talk elk all day long. So, Todd, I will, heading out for 12 days next week. Nice. Good luck to you. Again, just like, say to everybody else, safe travels. Definitely want you guys to be safe. Have fun. Larry, do you try to hunt perpendicular to the wind currents as much as possible? So, most of the time when I'm moving through, Larry, I really want to keep the wind in my face. Um, but once I hear a bull, so, let's say I hear a bull up here and I'm down here, I will go ahead and kind of start gaining elevation. So that way I get parallel to him, and it doesn't matter whether thermals are blowing up or down. So a mistake I see a lot of people make is they'll come over and then come directly up underneath the bull. Only problem with that is usually those elk are high enough on the mountain, by the time you're getting close to them, thermals are going to change. So that's why I always try to get parallel to that bull that I'm going to work. That way I don't have to worry about that wind. And then once you're up there, you basically have kind of that crosswind to you. And like I said, it doesn't matter if it's going uphill or downhill, he's not going to wind you. And plus, they feel a lot more comfortable when you're on that same level with them. It's a lot higher percentage to call them over than it is to call them up or down. What are your recommendations on sights and rest? Also, I've been in contact with the day 6 guys for some arrows. As far as sights, I shoot a single pin adjustable. This year, I'm shooting the Trophy Ridge React single pin. Um, I've been a spot hog single pin guy for years. I prefer the single pin just because of the sight picture that I get. You have that vertical post that you can actually just put right on the back of that leg. Um, I normally set my sight at 30 yards, and I know what my arrows are going to do at 20 or 40. So I basically just do Kentucky windage. But really, guys, so of the 27 bulls I've taken now, my average shot is about 22 yards. So that's just my preference. As far as a rest goes, um, I've shot the Trophy Taker Smackdown Pro in the past. Really like that rest. This year, I'm trying the ham ski limb driven, and it's really like the micro adjustment on that for really fine tuning and getting center shot. Um, so those would be a couple. So Trophy Taker Smackdown Pro, ham ski limb driven, um, Spot Hog, Fast Eddie, Trophy Ridge React, or HHA Kingpin. So those are sites that I really like, and what I really recommend. So heard one lone bugle last weekend about 1:30 afternoon, putting up cams, wasn't hunting. That's one of those things that I was talking about earlier, Stephen, when, those bulls lay down, they'll work on the contents of the stomach. And once that stomach is empty, they'll get up midday and move around. And that's what I was talking about, where most people, as soon as those elk bed down and go quiet, they head back to camp. And then they hang out in camp, and then they come back out for the evening hunt and have to climb back up the mountain or whatever. But if you're out there during that middle of the day, a lot of times, excuse me, you have a lot less hunting pressure. And especially, that's where I was talking about, if you're 200-300 yards from the bedding area and you hear that bull get up, you've got an opportunity to get in on him and call him in. Wapiti River also carries great wind checker. Yes, they do. Very similar calling tactics I use here in West Virginia for turkeys. Larry, absolutely. I do the same exact tactics for turkey. Kind of the same response and kind of the same thing that you're doing where, your approach there on turkeys is you're trying to build that aggression level in that tom and, get him fired up and, coming in for a breeding period, kind of the same approach that you're doing for elk. So, you're painting this picture of that breeding sequence going on. And then once that bull really starts engaging, then you kind of flip switch and start directing your calls at him to ramp up his aggression level. So, because remember, guys, you have to give that bull a reason to come in. And he's only going to come in for one of two reasons. One is looking for love, one's looking for a fight. And when they come in looking for a fight, they don't come in gingerly. They come in barreling in or just all stiff and staggered and staging. And they don't, I don't know. It's almost like kind of they throw caution to the wind a little bit. So, to bugle me the spot one of the ultimate predator decoys. Love how it looks. Now got to see how it works. That's the other thing. I'm also, yeah, I have the ultimate predator decoy. And in fact, no, you guys can't see it. So it's resting up against that orange food cache bag right there. I'm going to show you a couple of ways to use it. Definitely, if you haven't done it yet, go to their YouTube page and watch how to attach that onto the bow. There's some great little tips in there, but I'm going to give you a couple of other ways and ideas to use that decoy out there. One is you can put those black handles vertical on each side of the opening, and you can kind of hold it. So if you're back there as the caller. Or the other thing I'll do is string some Velcro together and put that Velcro around a tree, and then I'll put that decoy right on the front of the tree. So a couple of different ways that you can use that. So need video of you in action. Be cool. Action's louder than words. Yes, I will work on getting that video of using those. Good luck in your hunts. Talk to you later. Happy hunting to all. Steven, good night. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck to you as well. Larry, I think I found that in the middle of the day, the bulls will head to water. The spring seems to work best for me. Have you found the same or different places? So, yeah, midday they'll get up and they'll go to springs. They'll go to wallows. Like I said, they're typically going to get some drink. Early in the season, maybe when it's a little bit warmer, they're going to the wallows to wallow around in the mud and get that mud on them to cool them off, keep the flies off of them. And then they'll do a little bit of feeding, maybe check around. And a lot of times what those bulls will do is they'll bugle when they get up, start moving. They'll bugle a time or two as they're heading. They'll mill around, then they'll bugle as they come back. They'll lay down, and then they'll just kind of sit there and bugle once every 10, 15 minutes. And what they're doing is they're just broadcasting. They're just saying, hey, I'm right here if there's any cows in the area that want to come over. So, but yeah, midday time is really, really good for that. So Michael, I'm so glad to have finally caught you live. I've watched tons of your videos, including your live videos after they've aired. I plan to catch a lot more of your live action. Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, the thing on these live Q&As, this is here to answer you guys. I mean, Elk Calling Academy, our whole deal is really to help you guys shorten that learning curve and help you find success faster. I get a lot of enjoyment out of, your guys' success. When I started elk hunting 30 years ago, I didn't have anybody to teach me. I didn't have, YouTube. I didn't have Outdoor Channel. I didn't have those shows. I mean, heck, it wasn't until, the 90s that the videos really started coming out and could, watch and see how, interactions. And so, yeah, this is all about you guys and helping you guys out. Charles, evening, Mike, seen nice legal bull, but he wasn't with cows. What should I make of this? It's pretty early in the year, Charles. It's not unusual to still see bulls kind of off on their own a little bit right now. So, but here in the next, that was last weekend. Now probably going to start seeing, those bulls kind of get gathered up with cows, without really knowing the the story with that bull could have been too, maybe he had some cows and a larger bull came in and took the cows from him. And so that's why he's kind of wandering around. He doesn't have any cows. So now he's back to square one of gathering cows back up. So, but yeah, over the next few days, guys, you're really going to see an increase in rut activity, in vocalizations, see a definite increase in rut behavior, from the elk. So, Michael, good luck on the remainder of your hunts. Thank you all for what you do for us hunters. You are very welcome. Best of luck to you. So, all right, guys, I think I am going to wrap this up. He wasn't responding to any bugles or cow calls. So would you say the rut just hasn't hit yet? Well, the rut is still going, Charles. It's just we're in the pre-rut phase. We're in that pre-game phase. So um, I guess let's do a sports analogy. We're in spring training right now. So once the rut really gets kicking here in a few more days, then we're going to be into the regular season. But the thing about responding, so okay, you mean he didn't bugle back to you, but did he look at you? Did he come your way a little bit? Did he rake a tree? I mean, those are all responses. Also, it's not just a bugle. A bugle is not the only response. So, Gentry, how you doing, bud? So, um, so that's where this time of year, that's why I said that breeding sequence can be so effective because these bulls know that sound. They recognize it. They know what it represents. Because cow vocalizations, cows will do all their vocalizations throughout the entire year. Bulls will do location bugles throughout the entire year. So but the sounds that we really incorporated in the breeding sequence are associated with September. They're associated with the rut. And that's why they're so effective because bulls recognize that. He just looked and didn't come my direction at all, then continued feeding. So basically Charles, what happened is he didn't hear anything that really piqued his interest. He didn't really hear anything that gave him a reason, to come your way. And that's where it's like, okay, what type of sounds were you doing? What type of message were you, trying to, give to him? But the also thing to kind of keep in mind and remember is there's not anything out there that's going to work 100% of the time. There's not anything out there that you can do that is going to get that bull to come to you every single time, every single day, or any of that. So something we found out is that if you call too much, they shut up. Absolutely, there's that fine line of calling too much, not calling enough. You want to be right in the happy medium there. So, Amy, will you give us a good night lip ball? Yes. When we wrap this up, I will definitely end it with a lip ball for you. I love that request. Thank you, Amy. So, John, when coming in on bedded elk on a slope with terrain restrictions and the wind shifts, would you back out and try to move around them, or would you go back out and wait for wind to change? If you are heading towards any elk that are there, whether you saw them or whether they were vocal, if you do not have a consistent wind, you're absolutely right. I am going to back up and stay until wind gets consistent. So trying to move in and trying to hunt with an inconsistent wind is tough. And sometimes you don't have to wait because a lot of times you're late enough in that morning where you still have a little bit of cool temps, but you have a combination of heated up air, and that wind really can't decide if it wants to go uphill or downhill. So it just kind of swirls for a little bit. Just hold tight, hold your ground 15, 20 minutes. Let things change a little bit, get that consistent wind, and then move in. And you're probably going to find, John, that with that consistent wind, you're going to have a lot more success. So, Charles, okay, thanks. I really appreciate all the info. You're awesome. I wish you the best of luck on your upcoming hunts. Charles, appreciate that. So, yeah, best of luck with him. Just remember, you've got to give him a reason to come to you. So, and those one of two reasons: to breed or to fight. So, hard part with early in the year right now, they're more so apt to the love coming in to breed. So But once you get them going, once you get them excited with that, then you can switch the gears, raise that aggression in them, and get them to the mood to fight. So, but just ramp it up slowly. Remember earlier, be patient with it. Don't rush. If you have that bull there, you see him, you know he's close by, just take your time and work it. So curiosity will end up getting him, and he will end up, coming to you, but it's a whole patience game. So, all right, guys, like I said, we're an hour and 4 in. I'm going to shut this down so that I can go spend some time with my wife before I head back to camp. So, but Amy, here you go. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I really, really appreciate your guys' support. Most of all, guys, keep calling, keep practicing, but really, most of all, keep having fun. Best of luck to you guys, and we'll see you guys next week on the next episode of Wapiti Wednesday Q&A, brought to you by Elk Calling Academy. We'll talk to you guys next week.